Life is too short to play small. You were designed for big things. Welcome to the Big Design Energy podcast. I am your host, Marisa, and I am so happy to have you here with me. If you're curious about what it would look like for you to live a life truly extraordinary instead of settling for it could be better or it's not that bad, then join me as I share strategies, spiritual practices, and real-world examples to get you inspired and ready to make the life you dream of a reality. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. So excited to have Maree here with me, spiritual teacher, manifestor expert, how I was first introduced to her. Soaked up a lot of her content. I've heard all about her story. I'm definitely going to let her start out and share just an overview for you so we can get a taste. But I have such an amazing feeling about this episode. So welcome, Holly.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice to be here with a fellow manifestor. Always very easy to share some energy with each other. It's good.
Yeah, I love it. So I know you have a layered story, as we all do. Let's share with us let's do a little business background to start.
Yes. So many layers back. Oh my gosh, where to begin? Before I was in business, I was a nurse. So when I left school, I went to university and became a registered nurse and really loved it. And I can retrospectively see a lot of ways that it very much resonated with my design. But a few years into nursing, I really felt like this is 95% amazing. But that 5% that is missing is such a thorn for me. I just could not get past the fact that that was missing. I was also having my children at the time. I've got 3 kids, and it was just, I felt like there was so much body fluid. All I was doing was like, I was at work dealing with people's body fluid, and I'd come home and I'd deal with people's body fluid. And it was just a lot, right? I never had any peace. I never had any break from it. And I got an opportunity. I'm a 4/6 manifestor, right? And again, in retrospect, it makes so much sense. But I got an opportunity from a friend of a friend. It's like this guy that I randomly knew. His brother owned a business. And so he was like, "Oh, look, are you quitting your job? Great. My brother needs some help in his business. Can you come over and help him out with, reestablishing his business, chasing down some debt, and do that for a couple of months?" I had no experience in business. I have no idea why they thought of me. I was medical. I worked in a surgical theater. And that started me on this whole crazy path of business because I had never, ever entertained the idea. Business was never on my radar. Never thought of it. I don't have any family history of entrepreneurs. I didn't know anybody that owned businesses. And going into that business, I ended up staying for several years as their business manager and then moving from that into doing other things. But it was such a unexpected springboard. I very much recall going into helping out in that business and realizing, whoa, this is so strategic and it's really fun. And there's a lot of options for creativity here, for creative expression. And thankfully, they were really flexible and really open and just gave me complete autonomy to do everything, which again, in retrospect, was a great thing.
Yeah.
That's really why that worked out, right? From there, I moved into being a business consultant. So I did that for many, many years in the local area that I live in. And I would go into small and medium-sized businesses and hang out with them for a few months and really identify, this is what's working for you, this is not working, right? Let's look at your HR, let's look at your training, look at your money, look at your products. And eventually I just arrived at a place where I felt like I was putting all of this effort into initiating other people into all of this success. Everyone had amazing turnarounds and amazing transformations, and their businesses were thriving. And I was never doing it for me. I was always doing it for other people. So that prompted me to purchase my own business. Again, connection with somebody that I knew already in my network. Their business was bankrupting and they asked me to come in and buy it. And at the time, that seemed like the pinnacle. I mean, it seemed like the golden opportunity. It was a huge business. I was very well aware of it. I'd already had a lot of interactions with them. So I thought, I've got this. Nailed it. Got it in the bag. This is going to be my crowning glory. All of this desire that I've had for my own success, it's going to exist here. And that ended up being a little bit over 2 years of some of the most traumatic experience of my whole life. It was brutal. It was really brutal. And there was a lot of external stuff that went on with that made it really difficult. There was a lot of, like the old owners were still involved. We had some very, very nasty investors that we were dealing with. There was fraud and manipulation and blackmail and threats and violence at some points. And, there was a lot of stuff floating around that made that really challenging. But overall, it was very much because the business succeeded, that we took that business out of bankruptcy. And by the time I left, it was at over $2 million annual turnover. But I didn't feel one iota of success. I had no satisfaction. I did not enjoy it. I was exhausted. I was sick. None of it felt worth it to me. And I had people all around me, saying, oh, it's so amazing. Like, I was in a lot of media releases and stuff where we live. And, people saying, you've kind of reached it. Like, this is really glorious. This is really amazing. And I felt like I was harboring this deep secret that I was covering up. I actually hate this. I don't want any part of this. And that really broke me. I mean, it was over my Saturn return. So of course that was going to happen. And of course it needed to break me. Yeah. And that was the whole point of all of it. And after that, I really went through a whole evolution. I had a huge spiritual awakening. I had deep physical healing to do, a lot of wounds, a lot of trauma to get through, not just that business trauma, but childhood trauma to journey back through. And as I was doing that, I moved into online business. I was still in love with business as a whole. And to this day, I still am infatuated with business as a model. But I wanted anonymity to start with. And that's where I kind of started out. I came in as a blogger, hiding behind the little blog and a brand name on the blog, and eventually moved my way into being a spiritual business coach. Built that up to 6 figures, very similar experience to the previous business, like successful on the outside, super happy clients. I was not satisfied. And to me, that was the marker of, I've been here before. I know this lesson. I'm not going to repeat this. I don't have to do this again. So I shut that whole business down, went into a 5-month rest cycle, and eventually reemerged, creating this Manifestor community. So I now facilitate a community of manifestors and teach human design and gene keys and a whole bunch of other stuff where it's relevant. But that came from a creative urge that very much took me by surprise. I had no intention ever of doing any of the stuff that I do right now. And yet I actually finally feel successful. And I do feel satisfied as much as a non-sacral person can feel satisfied. I have a lot of peace in what I do right now. So it's been a bit of a up and down roller coaster, go into all of the places journey, much like it is for everyone, but certainly like it is for manifestors.
Yeah, I know in previous jobs that I've worked, I've loved, like, I want to work all day one day. I'd rather work like all days for 3 days and have 4 days off, or, something like that. Is that what you enjoyed about being a nurse? Like that schedule, but then you just weren't able to turn it off at home because it was just life?
Yeah, it was always different. There was always newness. There was always change. There was that rapid pace, be on, be working, be part of a team, be really cohesive, be doing really important things, and then stop and go home. And then there were moments of quiet and long stretches in between shifts, because we would, do runs of shifts and then have time off and runs of shifts again. So there was a lot about that was aligned. It was very, very good, I think, for my line 4. I got to really care for people, connect with people in an intimate way, create safety for them, have meaningful experiences with people. Because I worked in the surgical area too, I was, journeying with people through really significant moments of their life and really able to have an impact there and do that largely autonomously. As a nurse, you're pretty able to be independent, but it was not enough. It wasn't complete. I felt I just kept bumping up against the edges of the system and thinking we could do more here. We could do better. We could be more agile. We could be more innovative. But the system is so locked and loaded that there was no doorway, no windows out of that.
Yeah, I've faced similar problems where I'd be like, it's so obvious. We make this little improvement here, and like I could see a million things. Like everything would get better.
Yeah.
And they just go, this is the way it's done, and this is the way they want to keep doing it. Yeah, it's frustrating. I know. I'm like, I don't know what I want to do, but I know it's not at a corporation. So I know I'm going to have to start my own business someday, at some point, and then sell into it. So that's amazing
that you together eventually.
Yeah, found that connection. I know you, like you mentioned, you're coming off a whole money couple months talking about money and manifestation. What is your favorite part? I know, what is your favorite part with like teaching money? Is it, because I know you could glamorize it a little bit, but there's, like you mentioned, trauma and all of this other work that goes on the back end. What is kind of your favorite part of teaching, or maybe transformation that you've seen?
I think I went through a really, really long journey of going through all of those illusions of all those glamorizations of money, of, these are all of the strategies to earn a lot of money. And like, I've done it. I've earned a lot of money in the past. I've lost a lot of money in the past as well. And in those experiences, I found that when you're just chasing the money, when it's just about the dollar figure, when it's just about the image of having a lot of money, it doesn't feel good. You can get there, you can hold it. It doesn't bring anything. It doesn't have any abundance, prosperity, peace, joy. It doesn't have any of that. That was really important for me to step out of that journey and just do it in my own way, do it in a way that felt organic. I think, there needed to be an authenticity with how I journeyed through money. And so I like giving people permission for that. Like, you can actually stop chasing the money, because when you get to the money, it's not going to feel good, and you can force your way through it, but it's still not going to give you what you want. And really where I like teaching it, the lane that I like sitting in with money, is helping people to understand all of the ways that they are individually aligned with money, and really it's prosperity, right? Money is just a symptom. It's just a physical byproduct of prosperity and abundance. But really teaching people all of these ways that you're not like everyone else and you don't do it the same, and all of these generic methods and generic energies and generic processes that you've been taught to be abundant, maybe they don't apply to you. Maybe they're not correct for you. And human design, I think, is one of the most valuable tools that I've found for that, because it's so specific. It's the science of differentiation, right? The whole system is designed to tell you exactly how you're individual, how you're unique, how you're different to everyone. So that seems to be as transformative for the people I teach it to as it was for my own journey. Just that big freaking breath of relief. It says, you mean I don't have to, just embody my next level? Like I don't have to meditate on it. Like I don't have to do a vision board. Oh my God, I can do things my own way. And because that's the way I'm wired. That's my blueprint. That's how I was set up. So there's just a lot of relief in that, I find.
Yeah. That's amazing, because you see like 7 steps to do this and just follow this with manifesting, with business, with all of that. And we're like, wait, what? No thanks. No thanks. Yeah. Like, I mentioned before we hit record, I pulled a couple cards, and one of them was talking about consistency. So I know one of the big things is like manifestors not being consistent. We don't have necessarily a consistent access to this energy. But I want to get your perspective on this in a way that maybe consistency could be defined a little differently than it normally is. Because, like, you're still doing things overall as a whole to better yourself, overall as a whole, as you're designed to attract money or build a business, but it doesn't have to look like you said, journaling every day, looking at your vision board or whatnot.
Yeah, I think we have a big wound around consistency. And really, that's largely because it's been something that was socially co-opted, mostly for capitalism, a little bit for the patriarchy, right? We glorified consistency into being something that's unattainable for everyone. And even within the human design fields, we talk about how, generators and manifesting generators as sacral beings, they're able to be consistent, and non-sacral beings, are not designed to be consistent. And I don't even think that's completely true. Manifesting generators are designed to be like multitasking, jumping around, being a bit chaotic, making a bit of a mess. There's a lot of inconsistency that's very good for them. And for generators, that journey towards consistency is actually about mastery for them. So that's a lifetime journey that they have with using consistency as a tool to master what is really lighting their sacral center up. So even for our sacral beings, the way that we've understood consistency is not good. It's toxic. It's damaging. It says, hop in this box, do this thing repeatedly. And even if you hate it, even if you're bored, even if it puts you out of alignment, just keep going, because the value is in continuing to show up and work hard for this thing. And really all that says is somebody else is going to benefit. It's not going to be you, but someone else will benefit from your consistency. Hence the fact that we've got, the 9-to-5 work day and the 50-hour work week and the pick a career and stick to it for 30 years and all of these crazy social systems that we've got that are not good for any of us. I think certainly for non-sacral beings, understanding that the value that exists in consistency is that it can be very supportive for us. When we have external things that are consistent, they can hold us up like scaffolding. They can really become a really beautiful foundation for us to then have freedom to do other things. And I think business and consistency go hand in hand, because business is about the vehicle. The whole model of business is about going at something over and over and over again, and you experiment, you review it, you refine it, you shift it, you go back, you try again, you try again. And some of those things, especially in the early days, you'll try and you'll have a little bit of consistency with them and they don't work and you discard them. So maybe that's a course that you created and you launched it 2 or 3 times and you refined it and you checked it and still nobody's buying it. Great, throw it in the trash. You don't need to keep going with that. But this whole story that we have about you don't need to be consistent at all, that's pretty damaging for us, because when we're in a business model that requires repetition, it requires consistency, I think the nuance that we need to realize as non-sacral beings, and especially as manifestors who will never ever stick at something, is use the systems around you to create that consistency and to do it on automation, to do it for you so that it actually holds you up to go and do different things. So stuff like, create a program, follow your creative urge and create a program and then make it evergreen. The system of the evergreen product, right? Set up an email sales funnel, like do your things, set up repeating social media posts about it, get an affiliate program in place. All of these great automated, very consistent systems continue to bring that money in, they continue to bring that growth in while you are already 300 things down the track, moving on to something completely different. And the value of what you initially created is still there and it's still benefiting people, but you don't have to be the one consistently holding it up. So I think that's where manifestors especially can get so much value and so much positivity from consistency. We just need to realize, like, it doesn't have to be us doing it as individuals.
Yeah, we don't have to be physically there, our hands getting dirty every time. Just build it and let it keep living, and maybe
exactly
check up on it every few months.
That's right. It's like a house plant, right? Like you get it in and get it established every month or so. Just water it. It's good. Yeah. It's good to keep going. Yeah,
get some sunlight. It's all good.
Precisely.
Yeah. The next card I pulled was about feeling safe and secure. And I'm really interested with you having your defined ego, obviously. Right. Yeah. You have.
I do. Yeah. I'm like spleen, ego, and throat. Yeah. Yeah.
And just receiving support. So kind of masculine, feminine energies. That was just the undertone I was getting. Because I feel like with our initiating as a manifestor, it's leaning towards masculine on one cycle, and then our rest cycle is more sitting back to feel that safe and supportedness to allow the receiving to come in.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts? Because I know one of the biggest qualms manifestors have is the letting go, the sitting back and feeling safe in being able to sit back.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I had to do a lot of work on this. This took up a very big portion of my initial probably 5 years of my spiritual journey, was just navigating through all of this, understanding masculine and feminine energy and the qualities of them and how they can become very wounded, how both of them can become twisted, learning that swing between both of them. I think I so agree with you. Manifestors have a unique archetype with feminine and masculine energy because we're polarized. In our creative cycles, we're very masculine. In our rest cycles, we're very feminine. And I don't think we're really okay with either of them. You know, I think that like we struggle with both. Definitely we struggle more with the rest cycle because stepping into that feminine it's an art form that we're never really taught. But we also get super challenged by allowing ourselves to be fully big and fully masculine in the creative cycle. It's like we kind of get caught in this purgatory in between the two where we're never fully resting and we're never fully creating.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're just continuing to show up and try to be consistent.
Yeah.
Actually not
just
working
keep at it. Just keep doing it. Keep buying my subscription and my shakes every month and keep signing up. And then eventually, not 30, 60, 90, maybe 365 days later, you'll be fixed. You'll be cured.
Something will just work. It'll materialize along the way. It doesn't. You end up with a whole bunch of misaligned people. But I do think that for me, especially understanding that there was a lot of trauma associated with allowing myself to receive, and not just, I don't even want to make that seem like, oh, I just had to, you know, work through letting myself receive and then I got success and I got money. And no, I had to really navigate through feelings of safety in having people around me, in having support from specific people, in sharing my ability to initiate in safe, you know, relationships and environments. And I was really doing that as I was navigating setting up a business as well. I mean, the whole of last year for me, 2021, I spent 7 months in an intensive trauma somatic healing journey. Even though I'd done heaps and heaps of trauma work before, there was an element that I had not journeyed through, and that was around safety. I was saying, how safe truly do I feel like I am in letting people be near me, in letting people support me in my work, letting people be involved and collaborate in my work, but also in letting people purchase from me, letting people see what I do on social media. So I really thought I was great with that until I started to dig into it. And I realized I'm not so great with that. I have wounds because I think we all do from thousands of experiences that we've had over our lifetime that say, this is not safe. This is not safe. It's not safe. You should be smaller, hide away in the corner. Don't let people see that you need to rest. Don't let people see that you need or want support. Just go it alone, go rogue. And unfortunately, I think in the human design space, when we talk about manifestors, that's a narrative that gets really supported, and it's not a healthy one. Manifestors, you make your own rules. You're the lone wolves. Like, you don't have to do it with anyone. Actually, we do, because
we all need love and support. We're humans at the core.
We're humans, and we're part of a collective. So for me, yes, there was trauma work. Yes, there was looking at safety wounds. I had to do a lot of work on my nervous system. So I did a lot of vagal tone regulation. I strongly encourage people to do work on their nervous system. It's a big game changer. And that really revolutionized the way that I approach being, I think, witnessed in my work. Yes, receiving in my work, but largely letting other people in to my work, right? So this year's been very, very different for me in business. I am collaborating all over the place. I have partnerships. I'm in connection with a lot of people. There's now a lot of hands involved in everything that I do. I actually feel like I don't want to do it alone anymore. And that's crazy, because I spent 37 odd years thinking it's better if I do it alone. It's just good for me if I do it alone. And now I don't want to. I don't have a desire to do that. I really don't think that's a great place for anyone to be, thinking that we always have to be alone. So I think everyone, the whole of humanity, we got to deal with this stuff, but particularly manifestors need to start looking into, where do you feel safe and where do you not feel safe? Because that's going to really open a lot of doorways for you.
Yeah, I definitely felt like I've been heavily into the spiritual lately. So I kind of pulled back and dove into the physical, because I'm here in this body. Gotta make
the human meat suit. It's real.
Yes, it's real. I was sober for 5 weeks, and it was one of those things, like, what are you holding on to that you don't need to hold on to? I'll just have a drink and keep doing this over and over. And I always knew I could stop, because I've done it before, because I would never let myself get to a place where I couldn't. But it was very illuminating to see what my body was actually telling me, being actually able to hear and not just numbing everything down. I was amazed.
Yeah. Your body's quite chatty, really. It's got a lot to tell you if you listen.
Yeah, it really does. So when it comes to your trauma work, I kind of started my journey through some ancestral work. So have you delved into that at all? Have you noticed any corresponding patterns? Like, can you pick apart, like, oh yeah, they had it very rough and they were in survival mode this whole time, and they were always struggling with money and they couldn't receive, and it's no wonder I feel this way type of.
Yeah. I mean, I have a really bizarre ancestry that is full of manifestors. It was one of the things that stood out to me when I first came into human design, is that when I was looking back through my family history and running people's charts, it was like, oh my God, there's another manifestor and another manifestor and another, so my son, my youngest son, is a manifestor. My father is, my grandmother was, several of my aunts and uncles, my great grandparents were both manifestors. So there's a lot of manifestor trauma specifically that has come through my line. A lot of people who are very angry, just very, very angry, because they were forced into lifestyles and systems and arrangements that gave them no freedom and no autonomy and no scope for creativity. And when they were not allowed to express themselves in the way that they wanted to, they were ostracized and they were punished and they were cast aside. And some of them, like the ancestry of my family, specifically with manifestors, is they did a lot of damage. They really did a lot of damage in their anger. So there's a lot of family wounding for the people around all of those manifestors who were really hurt, because we can be incredibly destructive beings, you know, if our energy is not working correctly. I still think that my family, specifically in terms of money, my family's still very much working through playing small, living small, because small is safe, right? So don't ask for too much. Don't look for too much. Don't try to go too big. I'm the only person in my family that has ever had successful business, that has ever had more than just middle class income. And that's still very challenging for my immediate family, for my extended family. We actually just moved, my husband and my kids and I just moved house a couple of months ago, and we've moved into a much bigger house than what we're into. And we live in a very wealthy part of town, and it's gorgeous. I mean, where we live is absolutely phenomenal. It's very abundant. It was very specific that we chose to live in this house. There's, you know, there's a prosperity energy here that we wanted to be expansive for us. But even just this is hard for my family to swallow. There are members of my family that won't come to my house. We continue to receive, you know, those like little insults, the undercurrents of complaints and little jabby jabs here and there. Oh, you live in the mansion. Am I allowed to come over to the palace? Do you think you could make room? Why do you need so much space? All of those things. So I think that whenever we're doing ancestral work, we have to realize, you know, there are people many, many, many generations back that we never met who were pushing through experiences, pushing through cellular DNA that we're feeling. And we got to do the work to unravel that. And I consistently do that work. But there's also your ancestral line that's still alive and right, reinforcing all of those stories. And it's no small thing to be the person that reshapes that story in real time, in real life as you're going. I mean, it looks very shiny from the outside, but the inside of that is that it's triggering to a lot of people around you. And that's not always a pleasant dynamic to be in.
Yeah, I know. It's so rough. It's so crazy to me how we can just have this essentially energetic imprint, even though I know all this, you know, just through our ancestry and then what we get out of it. So as a mother, have you looked into your husband's like background, design, his whole family, and seen kind of like, I just kind of have like a theory with like my parents, like there are two lines coming together, then me and my husband coming together. So do you have any like hot takes on your husband?
Yeah, I was like looking into my husband's whole ancestry and design well before he was.
Yeah.
So my husband is a 4/6 splenic projector, and I'm a 4/6 splenic manifestor, and he just lives his whole life being initiated by me. That's it. It's just like everything that he experienced was at some point initiated by me, and he really had. I mean, very classic projector. He had no interest in looking at his family or looking at his ancestry or even looking at his own energy for a very long time, because it was like, well, if it's not broken, you don't need to do anything with it. You don't need to fix it. And that's very much his family motto. I mean, my family is play small, keep it small, but you do it real messy. Yeah, my family's really chaotic and very kind of judgmental. They'll lash out at each other. They're very reactive. My husband's family has the same story about play small, keep it small, be happy with having very little, but they're super quiet about it to the point where they're emotionally disconnected. They're cold. They don't connect with anything. And I think the curious thing for me was, you know, I come from this long ancestry of manifestors, you know, that kind of rage against the machine when it's like stuff is not the way that we want it to. My husband comes from a family history of projectors and generators who are very quiet. It's, oh, well, just sit back then. If it's not the way that we want it to be, just kind of roll on into silence. Don't expect it to be any different. And so that same story was just presented in two very, very different ways. And I mean, my kids are 13, 11, and 9 now. So they're right at the age where they're conscious enough to get conversations about this. And they're all 6 lines. I've got 2 4-6s and a 6-2. So they're just little shamans, you know, in kids' bodies.
Yeah.
Like, they're super wise. They're way wiser than me. And having a lot of conversations with the kids about, just because, you know, your grandparents or your aunts and uncles live life this way, we do it differently because we have the opportunity to do it differently. And, you know, they have a completely different life experience because of that. They see things remarkably differently than my husband or I did when we were children. And that's the huge benefit of sharing this work with kids. I think, like, they're so much more aware than we think they are. They're learning so much more than we think they do.
I mean, if they can handle, like, I don't know, whatever math they're doing, then they can pick up on this basic concept. Like,
at least
the outline of it. You know?
Yeah, they came through 2 years of a global pandemic. I think, like, kids at this point are able to hack anything.
Yes, they can Google anything, that's for sure. They can figure out anything, so they'll find it out one way or the other. That's funny.
Exactly.
I realize my husband's a 4-6 splenic projector as well.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, they're fun to be married to. Yeah.
They are. I'm just trying to find, like, I'm a very leader vibe, very boss in charge, and I'm shifting from, I have 45 as my son. And we're actually 3.5 years to the day. So I'm 45, 26, and his is reversed. We have different unconscious, but I'm like, very interesting, very similar, very not, very all of the things. Just trying to step back just in like a marital role and letting him be the leader. Well, I'm like, okay, let's do this, but you can walk forward and say we did, like, you know, like trying to figure out like all the balance and the nuance of all of it, because it's like, I know I'm a lot. I'm a Gemini, manifestor. I'm older than you. I'm Latina. I could really just destroy you if I wanted to, but I'm trying to be this soft little nice thing, but it's very interesting to hear. Yeah.
Marriage relationships. I think the dance between manifestors and projectors alone in any kind of intimate relationship is a tricky one sometimes, because we work in harmony so naturally, right? The projectors love to guide the manifestor's initiation. So there's this like seamlessness to it. The projector feels recognized. The manifestor feels peaceful. Like everything is a-okay. But we both have a desire to lead. And we both want to do it our own way. And I think that that's where manifestors and projectors come into conflict. And we both need to get really damn good at informing and having open communication. Yes. My husband and I have been married for 17 years and we're still working on that. We're still going with it. It's a big journey.
Yeah, that's definitely step one, which everyone says and no one wants to follow. And you just keep coming back to communication. It's kind of annoying, all that fun stuff. Yeah. I don't know, since you're both have your spleen defined, mine's undefined. With these just intuitive hits, just going in, just knowing this knowing, I feel like I have to work and practice at it personally. And with him, he's just like, oh yeah, I know when to stop pulling a card because I just know, but I don't care about it. And I'm like, what? It's like, he's like, I know my knee hurts, but it's actually because this other shoulder over here, just going into the body. Have you experienced similarly?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah. So my husband and I are both splenic. Our 3 kids are a 4-6 emotional projector, a 6-2 sacral generator, and a 4-6 emotional manifestor. So understanding, especially between the 2 of us as splenics and our 2 sons as emotional authorities, oh man, have we had to learn to slow down and just feel through things. And that I have found that really challenging in that parent to child dynamic specifically, because with both my husband and I being splenic, we know the direction forward. Usually our spleens they're on point together. Like our spleens are telling us the same thing, especially the more my husband does work on his splenic authority. But we're good. We feel it. The ping's there. The impulse is there. It feels correct. We will just charge forward. And we've had to learn to stop. And even though we know it's correct, to just sit and not take action and not go anywhere while we wait for our emotional kids to just feel it, to just ride the wave, to just go the whole way through. And sometimes that, of course, in bigger experiences, that takes a long time. When we like to be a very collaborative family. We like to be very understanding of everybody's processes. And so, when we're deciding, do we want to go on holidays, we will involve our kids in that decision. And we got to wait for our emotional kids to ride the wave. And, even our sacral generator daughter, she's fast. She's sacral. She's yes or no. She's in or out. She knows exactly what she wants. The boys, So we will sit, in the supermarket, we will sit in the candy aisle for 20 minutes and just wait for them to choose a candy that my husband and I have already identified that is probably going to be the one that they pick. And we could just give it to them. But I think that, we need to, this is part of that collective harmony. We need to have experiences of sitting in somebody else's energetic process to understand the value of it, to understand this is what that experience is, and this is why it's important for that person. So I'm not better because I'm faster at decisions. Sometimes that means things can go so fast that I don't get to experience them as they're going. They can go in like a blur and I don't get to be present. And when I'm around emotional authorities, I get to be really present because I'm slowing way down and I'm feeling through all of it and just witnessing, having the opportunity to witness somebody else go through things in depth. And I think everyone has their own little kind of love-hate relationship with their inner authority.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone, right?
It's like, oh, cool, you're a manifestor, but also you gotta wait because you're a man. I'm like, what?
What?
Don't give me the green light and then be like, just kidding. You gotta wait for a second green light. This doesn't make any sense. It's not fair.
Jokes. Yeah. You've got to go slowly now. I think, people with an emotional wave struggle with that emotional wave. It's really challenging to feel through all of those emotions, to wait for an outcome. Splenics, it's very challenging for us because we're constantly surrounded by noise, having to exit noise and stay still to feel a decision. And our decisions, like that impulse from the spleen, is never clear. And it always comes with fear. It always comes with this boatload of fear. That's really challenging. I think it's very hard for, ego authorities, firstly, to want what they want. And secondly, because they have to talk about it. And they tell these big stories and they've got to have all these vocal expressions like self-projected authorities, right? They've just got to get it out. And all of them have these wounds about I'm too much. People don't want to listen to me. I have to use too many words. I have to express too much. Emotional authorities often feel the same way. I think this is the grass is greener feeling that we have as humans. Oh, it would be so much better if I could just be like that person. Well, you chose what you chose.
Yeah.
It's
not a coincidence. It's not a randomized.
Yeah. Like you didn't pull a number out of the hat on your way into this human existence. You chose all of these elements of your design. So I think the journey is in understanding why you chose this for yourself and what value it's bringing for you.
Yeah, I definitely gotta be patient. I'm around a lot of generators and MGs, so I'm very, well, I don't want to say am, but was very conditioned to go, chaos, do all the things at once with a smile, faster than anyone else, and then go on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Have you looked at I'm sure you've looked at it, but in regards to authority, just your specific design and your personality, and are they the same, drastically different?
Yeah, I am a splenic projector in my body, so splenic manifestor otherwise. And I have a long history of chronic illness and, major things wrong with my body. A lot of splenic people do, a lot of manifestors do, a lot of six lines do, and I just have all three of those.
Why not?
My body and I, we've been on a journey together, and understanding that my body is a projector and my body will go to do everything it can. My body will exhaust itself to support my manifestedness, right? Especially when I have an urge, my body's like, let me help you. Let's keep going. We could do this. We can keep going. And it will get tired. It burns out. So even the nuance of when I'm in a creative cycle and I've got a creative urge, my body can't work more than 3 to 4 hours. And then it needs to stop and it needs to lie down flat because my body is a projector body. So even though my manifest energy is saying, we're in a creative cycle, we're finally out of the rest cycle, let's go, let's initiate this thing, my body still has its own frequency. It still has its own energy. And I need to be responsible for supporting that and managing that. But I've also found a few other, quirky little things like when I'm getting a massage, if I don't invite my body to do that, it is tense the whole time and then really bitter. I feel like I'm a real victim. I'm like, oh, the massage is too hard, or it's too soft, or it didn't go in the places that I wanted it to. So I've learned I gotta invite my body. Would you like to receive this? Can I invite you to be part of this experience that I'm initiating for you? And then it's a whole different thing. My body immediately physically relaxes and is open to receiving things. So I think there's so much to be drawn from understanding the difference between your personality and your design, or your mind and your body, however you see it on your graph. Because we're complex. We're really complex beings.
Yeah, I know. I gotta just speak it out. And so I'm just constantly talking to myself. In my head, I hear my own voice talking to myself. And sometimes out loud, I hear my own voice talking to myself.
I love it.
I learned that people think in two different ways. So in full, complete sentences, or more so just see an image of a grocery store, see a line, whatever you need to pick up. How do you think?
This all comes down to your variables, right? If you look at it from a human design perspective, this is all about whether your variable is facing left or it's facing right. I'm a quad left. So all of my energy is left facing, which is so bizarre for a splenic manifestor. So I see things in specifics. I think in complete total strategy and structure and routine. I have very specifically formed memories. I remember smells and feelings and words and images. For me, it's like there's no fluidity in my thought. And yet I have an undefined ajna, right? So this is part of the kind of the crazy dynamic of something like human design, but
walking contradiction, but it all makes sense.
Right. So I have very open perspective. I'm very open in my opinions and my belief systems and able to change my mind very easily. But my internal kind of mental process is very specific. It's very, very structured. In opposition to my husband, who is a quad right. And he's a projector with a defined ajna. So he doesn't remember details, doesn't think in structure, he'll say half a sentence and then it'll just wisp off into the night and not go anywhere. And yet his belief systems are very, very specific, very black and white, very well formed. He has trouble changing his mind about things. He gets very set on one direction. So I think we always need to understand we're not one thing. We're a bag of walking contradictions, every one of us.
That's the fun in it, right? If it was easy, then why would it be fun? Gotta get messy in a good way. A little mess, little juiciness. So lastly, I've been working on helping women become a priority in their lives because I feel like I just keep hearing that over and over again. So, I mean, you've touched on it in this episode, setting those boundaries, like with your work, your career, when you had it, with your family. How do you make yourself a priority in your life?
I like the biggest transformation for me in that, because I'm a mother, yeah, and I'm a woman and I'm a wife and I'm in a largely white patriarchal country. And so I grew up with the story and the identity of you sacrifice yourself until you can't sacrifice yourself anymore. And then you get up and you keep going and you sacrifice some more. And that's how you show love. Yeah. And for me, all of that conversation that, started to come out 10 or so years ago about fill your own cup first and make sure you're doing self-care, none of that resonated, because that didn't seem true to me, when on the one hand we had society saying, oh no, women and mothers are meant to do everything for other people, and that's your value, that's your badge of honor. How much can you do for other people before you do for yourself? But also we'll share a cute little Instagram picture with you to say fill your own cup first. That's incongruous.
Yeah.
That's a lie.
You also got to look really cute while you do it and make sure your nails are done and dinner ready every night.
Correct. And so my journey through that, the transformation and the point of movement and actual growth there for me came with understanding I am actually the matriarch in our family. It is me. I make the decisions. I call the shots. And that initially, when I first really received that, I was like, yes, finally. Recognition. I'm the one in control and I get to be the one in power. And then that very quickly became confronting, because I realized then if I was the matriarch and I was wearing the pants and I was the one making all the decisions and initiating all the things and determining our family values and setting the energetic tone and all of those things, I had set up some really bad patterns and some really, really bad expectations. And if I was going to change that, then it had to be me that changed it. So we went through, back in like 2019, 2020, our family together, all of us, we went through a big, very conscious journey as a family. And my kids were pretty young then. I mean, my eldest was only 10 when we first started doing this. My youngest was 6. And, we sat down and we regularly had family gatherings, family meetings together where, I would like write out letters and I would say, these are all of the things that I'm doing, 16, 17 pages. These are all of the things that I do. And I need to redistribute that off. Who's going to do this? Who's going to take care of that? And then we started moving together into, let's get out a piece of paper and write down ideas for what do you want our family values to be? What do you want the routine of our family to be? Ultimately knowing it was my decision to say yes or no. So it was a big journey to change the whole infrastructure of our family. I mean, we changed roles, like we changed personalities, we changed expectations. And in doing that, it reprioritized everything. So, I rest a lot. I rest a lot. I only make dinner twice a week. We have a house cleaner. I don't even clean my house. I never clean my kids' rooms. I don't take care of the pets. Like pretty much somebody else does almost everything, because we've done this big story. We've done this big journey together to recognize if mum is the head of all of this, then mum's energy needs to be the priority. And so now it's very normal. Now it's just the standard. But I think it's really important to break through that illusion of thinking that it's just going to be a couple of little things to prioritize yourself. Like just take a bubble bath at night.
That's like the glamourization. Like, yeah, get your bath bomb, light some candles, a glass of wine. Don't forget to take a photo for Instagram.
That's right. Put it on Instagram. Otherwise it didn't happen. Yeah.
Now you're a priority.
It's so much more than that for a lot of people, especially mothers. And even if you're partnered, this is a whole dynamic change. You got to change the way you view yourself, change the way other people around you view you, and then start changing all of the patterns and all the stories and the schedules and the routines and the expectations that have been built based off that. So I think that we all need to do it. I really think we all need to do it, but it's not for the faint of heart. If you're going to prioritize yourself, you need to prioritize yourself, and you need to be really bold in doing that. And at some point along the way, learn to be unapologetic for it, because certainly in my experience, this is still very confronting to people around me. You know, there are people who think that I'm not sacrificial enough, that I'm not nurturing enough, that I'm not, soft enough. My mother still hates it. This is in direct opposition to everything my mother ever taught me to be. So my mother continues to criticize me for making my husband do too much. So, I think that that's a reality check for all of us. If you're going to prioritize yourself, you're still going to be doing that in a way that is very challenging to society and a lot of people around you. That's going to be hard for them.
I'm curious, have you looked into your love language?
Oh, yes. I love love languages. My love language is gifts, actually. Yeah.
So you're just saying, like, I got a cleaner. I'm like, that's my dream. Mine's acts of services. So I'm like, let's just pay someone to come in here. And I'm happy. Yeah.
Just get it done. Yeah. My husband's love language is acts of service. And so while, I would actually be happy to just kind of redistribute our time, and, I would do the house cleaning. I'd just give up work for a day and do house cleaning. It's so good for him. So I just initiate it and make sure that happens. And, the flip side is then I don't have to clean. So that's also good.
Yeah. I love it. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on here, sharing your big manifestor energy. I love it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Know where they can listen, follow along, what types of programs, offers you have right now.
Yeah. So I mostly hang out on Instagram. No fluffy Instagram posts. It's all very real and very honest.
Selfies coming in the near future.
None of them happening. No. So I am at the Holy Maree on Instagram, though we are actually just about to do a big rebrand and a name change. So you might also find us at the Manifestor community, and that will be coming in at the end of August. We are just wrapping up at the moment our big money series, as we touched on. So our signature money program, which is called Manifestor Money Moguls, all the M's all the time. That's wrapping up just at the end of July. And then from September, we reopen our Manifestor Mastery certification. So that's a huge, big program. It's a 9-month Human Design and Gene Keys certification, which has a whole bunch of additional components that specialize in manifestors. So that's our third opening of that, which is wild because I've never run something 3 times in my whole business history. And that it always changes and always evolves and grows. So we're really excited to get that back out again. And beyond that, I never know. And I can only ever see a couple of steps in front of me, like most manifestors can. And I think that that's good enough. But definitely come on over if you're a manifestor, come and hang out with us and check out the things that we do and the support that we offer. And if you love a manifestor, there are so many people who are married to a manifestor, they have a manifestor kid, their parents or their siblings or their boss are manifestors, and they come and hang out and just ask questions and observe and learn a lot of stuff. So we love having other types in our community as well.
Yeah, it's nice to get like a sneak peek behind the veil, behind the shield, the walls we build up.
It is. Yeah, I feel like we're offering a little safe space for people to see the real manifestors.
Yes, I love it. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's a privilege to share in your audience and your business. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for choosing to spend your time here with me today. If this episode and the message I shared resonated with you and you would like to support the podcast, please share on your social media, share with your friends and family, rate, review, and subscribe. And remember, you have the power already within you to create the life you desire. Until next episode.